Proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hey guys, welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and I've got Bob Savage here with me in studio.
Indeed you do.
How was your weekend?
It was nice.
Yeah, weekend was pretty nice for me too. I did something I haven't done in a really long time.
You tied your shoelaces together and fell on your nose.
Yes. No, I went rock climbing. I haven't gone rock climbing in a really long time.
Was that like at the, like a sporting goods store or one of those places?
Kind of. So what prompted it is actually one of my employees has been doing climbing for a while now. I used to climb way back. I used to climb at the Red Barn, Rock Ventures. I used to actually help a rock climbing program at Boys and Girls Club when I worked there. And my wife and I were going out for dinner for her birthday last week. And we happened to go to a Cheesecake Factory for kind of a little dessert at the end of the night, and saw EMS was going business. They're closing down here in Pittsford Plaza. So we
Eastern Mountain Sports.
Yeah, Eastern.
It's not emergency medical services, folks.
No.
It's okay.
Yeah.
The ambulance will still come.
The ambulance will come. Yep. And both of us loving being outdoors and everything. We popped in there. They've got a ton of stuff like 70-80% off. Found a pair.
Are you billing them for this ad?
Oh, yeah, right. Wouldn't that be nice? No, I found a pair of rock climbing shoes for that actually fit me. The only pair in the store. I went through 40 pairs, found one pair that actually fit me for what I thought was a good price. It rang up. It was way cheaper.
See, now this is an education for me, folks, because I did not know until about 10 seconds ago there was such a thing as rock climbing shoes.
Oh, yeah. Actually, so that's a good point. So they're
like big suction cups, or what?
So they're extremely tight. I think they're normally like a canvas or a cloth, and then the base of the shoe is very hard. It's still kind of flexible, but it basically gives you more support. So when you're on one of those little tiny little cracks or pieces, there's a little more structure to the shoe. So it basically makes it easier.
So you're like this outdoorsy type that likes to.
Yeah, I like that sort of stuff. Yeah. So
my idea of roughing it is one of the bars out of my brand of scotch. So not an outdoorsy
then you
type.
Switch over to bourbon. Is that the?
I would never switch to bourbon.
No,
don't do that.
Just go home.
No.
So my friend's been bugging me for a while now about getting back into rock climbing. Actually, he went climbing when we went to Czech Republic together. So he climbed, I didn't. So I ended up going yesterday, and it was a blast. There's a new gym. Well, maybe it's not new anymore, but it wasn't around when I was climbing, down off of Monroe Ave, and there's just a ton of bouldering. I did some top ropes and stuff. So it was cool. It was
I have no idea what any of this stuff is. I don't know.
So bouldering is like climbing shorter climbs, but you have no rope. And then top roping is you're doing the much taller ones, but it kind of like it says, there's a rope from the top that,
Is it called belaying? Is that what it is?
Belaying is the act when you're the one holding the rope, making sure that when the guy falls, or if the guy falls, that you catch them. That's an oversimplified term, but yeah. So I got back into that. That was a lot of fun. I'll probably try to go more often, but it was pretty cool. So
Andrew versus gravity, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. We checked the gravity a couple times yesterday. It still works.
Is it still there? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So
that's reassuring.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you need more proof of gravity, by the way, all you have to do is turn on your TV and look at Jerry Nadler.
There you go. Yeah, you can do that too. Absolutely. One of the things that I did over the weekend was try to figure out how we're going to structure this 5-day-a-week show, because it's exciting and I always have stuff to talk about, but I don't always know where to put it. So I want to share with you guys before we get on today's topic, kind of the idea of how Radio Free New York is going to, organize its content, I guess, is the best way to do that. And as I'm doing this, I realize I didn't pop open the chat. Mondays, I'm going to try to keep on statewide issues and current news, especially because Monday, there always seems to be something going on. You can never escape
perverse
it.
Because what they like to do is they like to sneak things by you. So what they do is they slide it in there on the weekend when everybody's, preoccupied, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
Because, when the weekends are holiday decorating and baking cookies and wrapping presents and going out and shopping, of course.
Yeah. So Mondays, I'm going to try to keep on those things. No promises, right? Then on Tuesday, Kevin's going to come in studio. He's going to join us, and he's going to bring in some local community type issues. So issues that could impact local communities here, across the state, whatever it happens to be. And Bob and I will comment on whatever it is he's got. Then on Wednesdays, which we introduced last week, is going to be White House Wednesdays. So that's when we'll hit kind of like the national issues, stuff going on in the White House. Maybe someday I'll talk about impeachment, but we'll see. Thursdays is going to be whatever we missed throughout the week. All that bleed over stuff that maybe we didn't get. We're going to try to bring a couple of guests in studio, have some fun with that. So if there's somebody you want to see, send me a comment, send me a message and say, hey, I want to hear what so-and-so thinks about whatever topic. Send it to me. We'll try to get them in here. And then Fridays, I think, should be Fake News Fridays, because that was a lot of fun Friday afternoon. For those of you who didn't catch the Friday show, Kevin at the end of the show had a list of news articles, and Bob and I had to try to figure out if they were fake news or not.
Right. And you can figure it out along with us. Yeah.
So you guys can listen and, comment in or, think to yourself, like, is this fake news or not? Of course, there will be some real news in there too, and we'll talk about whatever else we normally talk about. But that's what I'd like to kind of give you guys in terms of a structure, so you know a little bit what to look forward to each day. And being that I am a libertarian and I try not to follow the rules too tightly, I'm going to break the rule today. And for a brief moment, today's not Wednesday, but I wanted to bring a trending item to light, because we all know impeachment is going on right now, and we all know there's a lot of Democratic candidates fighting for this primary to try to run against Trump. They're fighting for the limelight. They're trying to get ahead. They're trying to get their name out there in front of everybody. And right now they're losing.
Yeah.
But the person they're losing to is not Trump or impeachment. I mean, they're probably also losing to that. But they're losing to something else. And that is, can anybody guess? I'll give you a second. Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda is trending above all of the Democratic presidential candidates.
Holy moly. What does that tell you?
And it's actually comical and entertaining, to say the least. There's a couple articles about it, like, oh wow, Americans, like, their priorities are either right or very wrong. No,
I think people are bored to death with, first of all, everybody knows that the slate of candidates they're just all moonbats, and they're espousing things that are just unattainable and completely out of step with any average American who looks at them and pays any attention to them goes, what?
Yeah,
are you serious?
And I think that some of the candidates, they have, like Bernie Sanders is a great example. He has a following, right? He has a fairly large following. I can't walk anywhere in Rochester without seeing some sort of Bernie sticker or something. Yet Baby Yoda is trending twice as high as he is.
He has no shot at defeating Trump. None whatsoever. Yeah. And also, I mean, truth has to be told here on this radio station, on this show. And the truth of the matter is that if Elfie the sheepdog, who is laying by my side right now, ran for president, she would get a following.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's become like a reality TV show type thing, and whoever kind of stands out the most. I think that some of the candidates, they haven't figured that out, and that's why their campaigns are doing very poorly. Like the whole entire thing is really a popularity contest, and that's what it is. You got to be popular. You got to be.
It's an ideology contest, where the moonbats who believe in electric cars, driving electric cars to go. I don't know, demonstrate in a Occupy Rochester rally or whatever. You know the type.
Sure.
That's ideology driven, and but that's not America.
Yeah, no, but I think, and I could be wrong, I think that the trending entertainment piece is beating out ideology. That's what I think is happening. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. We're going to take a break here on Radio Free New York. We'll be back in a moment to talk about our topic of today, which is the New York State STAR program. We'll be back in a moment.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester.
Yeah, just double check the time remaining.
Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized fashion. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, we are back here on Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and today I have a life hack for you guys.
A life hack?
Life hack. So for those of you who aren't familiar with a life hack, kind of these things that float around the internet, things that nobody knew, but they wish that they could, and, it makes things easier. And it's everything from like how to use paper clips to like make your hangers more effective.
Wait a minute. There's people out there who don't know how to use paper clips.
Oh, there's all sorts of things. You can use WD-40 to clean things, and just like goofy stuff that you probably didn't know about. And sometimes they have a lot of value. You're like, holy crap, I had no idea. That's great. Like using binder clips to organize cables, all the way to stuff that's like totally useless. Like, I don't know, using the bumps on a coin to your back. So they're called life hacks. They're these,
or watching the impeachment here.
Yeah. So they're so those are life hacks, and like I said, some have value, some don't. This one has an interesting amount of value because it was found that if you got registered for the New York STAR program, which is the, let me see, what's it called again? The Student Tax Relief, School Tax, New York State School Tax Relief Program. There it is. Sorry, I knew I had it somewhere in my notes. So say you registered for this program, which I'm going to explain to you guys what this program is, what it does, and how it works in a moment. And you don't pay your property tax, which is what you're supposed to get the rebate check mailed back to you from, or a refund. I guess maybe it's a refund. You get the check anyways. Uh-oh is right. So this is what happened. A guy or a girl, this person has kept themselves nameless. Good job by them. I would too. From Onondaga County, found out that they can still receive their STAR tax check from New York State, even if they never paid the property taxes.
What a country.
And not just that, it doesn't matter how delinquent the taxes are, the checks just keep coming. So, of course, this story comes out and people start looking into it, and property assessors and county government and the state government, they all agree. When the state sends out these checks, they don't actually know that you paid the tax on them. So they're literally sending out these checks as a credit or a refund for something you paid. But if you didn't pay it, you still get the check. So this is interesting because the information of who has and hasn't paid their property taxes is all public information. It's readily available.
The records are kept by the state, as I recall.
Yeah, well, in each county has the property tax, like whether it's current or not, available. Most of them, if not all of them, you can even look it up online. So it's not like this is hard to get information.
At one time, they were publishing them in the newspaper. The delinquent tax, if taxes had not been paid.
Yeah. So the director of something, that's great. It doesn't actually say. Don Webster, who I think is the director of property taxes in Onondaga County, the Real Property Tax Services Office, that's who he is, says that, yeah, it's true. New York State doesn't request any of the records from their office when sending out these checks.
Well, they're so underfunded, the poor dears.
Yeah.
They don't have enough money.
So the next interesting thing is they go on to say that nobody actually knows how often this fraud is happening. They just know that it is happening. The checks get sent directly to the homeowners. So the county has no idea. The city has no idea. The state clearly doesn't know either, even though they're ones sending out the money. And the state comptroller's tax department prefers not to put a number on it.
I'll bet.
And they have not taken an interest in the issue either. So that I think says a lot.
Don't be messing with our little world here.
Yeah. So far this year, this was actually as of a couple weeks ago, the state has mailed 503,700 503,725 star checks to the tune of about $1.8 million in these rebates. But nobody knows how many of these were mailed out to people that never actually paid the taxes.
That's so of a change to them. What do they care?
Yep. So let's talk a little bit about what the STAR program is. Let me give you guys some background on that, and then we'll talk about this a little more in depth. So the STAR program is what they call a direct reduction on your school tax bill in the form of a property tax exemption, which is a really complicated way to say your school tax is being reduced when you jump on this program. It is currently closed to new applicants. So if you're hearing about this for the first time, chances are very good you can't get on board anyways. You would have had to register, I think last year, the year before was the last time that they were accepting people into this program. And there's various ways for people to qualify. I'll pull up exactly what it is, but essentially you have to be eligible for the program, and it's based on your age, your residency, and your income. So the residency part is pretty easy. You have to own your home, and it must be your primary residence. And I spoke with an attorney about this probably about a year ago, and I said, what determines residence in New York State? And the answer I got was pretty interesting, because they said, your residence is where you say you reside. And I'm like, well, there's got to be some, do I have to have an RG&E bill? Do I have to have this and that? He's like, not quite. Each law kind of defines it differently, but for the most part, if you say you reside there, you reside there.
I mean, did you say each county decides it? Is that what they said?
No, different like bills and laws, if they claim residency, like in the definitions, they will define residency specifically. So what this one does, it does define it, but on the website anyways, it's a little unclear, because they say some factors that help determine whether a property is your primary residence include voting, vehicle registrations, and length of time spent each year on the property.
Okay.
So if you've registered yourself to vote at an address, but your vehicle registration is at another address, I don't know how they make that determining factor. Maybe they've got an equation, whatever. But essentially, you have to live there or pretend to live there. That's the first step.
Interesting.
Yeah. So then the next step is age, right? So there's two STAR programs. There's Basic STAR and Enhanced STAR. As you may have guessed, Basic gives you less money, and Enhanced STAR gives you more. And when I say that they give you money, really, they're giving you your money back. So don't take this as, oh, the government's giving me money. No, they took it out of your pocket. They're giving you a little bit back. So for Basic STAR, there's no age restriction. Anybody qualifies. For Enhanced STAR, you have to be 65 or older, or if it's a jointly owned property, only one spouse or sibling must be at least 65 by December 31st of the year they'll begin. So that's the difference. Then there's an income requirement. Now, with most programs in New York State and probably across the country, the income requirement is almost always like around $100,000. This is not the case at all. $500,000 or less for the STAR credit, and $250,000 or less for the STAR exemption. So this is combined income of your household, which I think this is probably going to apply to the overwhelming majority of the people in New York. I could be wrong. I don't know how many people make more than $500,000 a year. Maybe it's more than I think. But I know like the average income, like in the city of Rochester, is not doing great. If we look at the national average income, it's like $52,000 a year, I think. So 500,000 seems like a lot. However, if you're retired, you're 65 or older, and you want Enhanced STAR, you cannot make more than $86,000, $86,300. And for 2020, it looks like they're bumping the number just a little bit to $88,050. My guess is that's to, adjust for inflation, essentially. So those are the eligibility requirements, and I think that it's important for you guys to know this as we go through this discussion, because the STAR program, I think, does something that is truly unethical that government shouldn't be engaging in. And we're going to talk about that and a bit more about the program in a moment when we come back from our break. So we'll talk about that on Radio Free New York.
Now, more than twice the power. Radio Free New York.
All right, we are back here on Radio Free New York and talking about a life hack you can do. Apparently, if you're registered for the STAR program and you get the check, you don't actually have to pay the taxes that the check reimburses you for. So you can just stop paying that, I guess.
Not that we're encouraging you to do that, mind you.
No, definitely not. I mean, your house will eventually be seized by the state or local government or whoever's got, I guess, the greater stake in your debt on your property.
Well, you got to watch out, too, because the local regulations can be, not only can they be pretty draconian, they can change from year to year. So don't assume anything about paying your taxes unless you check with the property tax office. Yeah. And of course, they're not going to tell you, like, don't pay your taxes, right? That's and I am certainly not advocating that any of you do that. I would not want you to deal with whatever repercussions that brings along. So what I do want to do is talk about the STAR program, though, because the STAR program, the more I read about it, the more I look into it, I think it was designed to make people feel good, like, oh, I'm getting my taxes back. I don't have to pay as much for school taxes. But really, I think it's terribly unethical. And it's certainly a way for government to pick winners and losers. There's some issues that I see here. So I'm just going to lay out, there's 3, maybe 4 categories of people that the STAR program, in effect, increases their taxes on. So everybody is probably thinking, like, wait, what do you mean, Andrew? I thought if I applied to the STAR program, I get some of my tax money back. This is a good thing, right? That would be reduction.
Yeah. Which is true for you if you get the tax program. But what about all the people that don't qualify or don't have the option for this? It actually means you're paying less taxes and they're paying more. So there's unequal taxation there. So what we have is, these 3 to 4 sets of people. The first is the one that gets picked on the most. They get picked on by pretty much everybody, and that's the rich, right? Anybody making over that $500,000 mark. I don't know if that's considered rich or not. I don't know where you draw the line between, like, medium income and rich, or the middle class and the wealthy. But my guess is if you're pulling in $500,000 a year, you're probably doing okay. And because of the STAR program, you're paying more in taxes. You're paying a higher tax rate. Now, obviously, the more money you make, that percentage is probably going to diminish, but that's just the fact. That's how the numbers lay out. Businesses are the number 2. These are on residence properties, not commercial properties. So businesses are paying for school tax regardless. I mean, businesses don't have children that they send to school. They're essentially virtual entities, but they will pay higher taxes because of this. The next group is and this is like a broad sweeping term here, but poor people. And I'm going to explain to you guys why poor people end up paying more tax because of this a little bit later. The 4th category is renters. So renters, they don't have the opportunity to apply because they're not homeowners. So there you go. So we'll go through each of these, but the renters specifically, if you think about that, they're paying school tax on a property that somebody else owns, right? And they don't qualify for the reduction. So not only are they paying more taxes, but their rent, because the taxes are higher, is also going to be higher. So STAR tax, or the STAR program, actually, if you look at this, and I'm going to bear with me, guys, I guess that's the best I can say, because I'm going to advocate that we should just lower the taxes instead of picking and choosing who gets this.
Yeah.
And,
but there's here's the problem is with that. The problem is that cuts government out. There's no role for government. You don't need government around
exactly.
to be to choose who's the winner and who's the loser.
Yep. So if we looked at each of these groups of people and look at how that could impact this whole thing, and we'll start with renters. If we took the STAR program out of the picture and just reduced everybody's school tax across the board, and for those of you who might not know, especially if you're a renter, you may not actually know, if you've never owned a home, how your taxes work, but you pay property tax to the city or town that you live in. It also gets paid to the county. There's normally a sewage tax and a bunch of other things bundled into that, plowing tax, frontage tax, like all this other stuff. And then you also pay a school tax on the property based on the value of the property. So you as a renter, and I hear from renters all the time that they don't care about property tax because they don't own property. Property tax is the driving factor that drives the cost of your rent, because every landlord looks at the cost of the taxes on the property and starts that number there and moves it up. That's how they make profit. So if property tax goes up or school tax goes up, so does the rent. I mean, there's no landowner is going to rent out their property to you below the cost of taxes. So if we look at this and say, what if we weren't picking and choosing winners and losers? What if we weren't, having this tremendously bureaucratic process with a registration and all this stuff? What if we just reduced property tax across the board? And not just that, and by property tax, I mean school tax specifically. And I know some people are going to think right now, especially with what's going on in the Rochester City School District, that this is an awful idea because they have that $60 million deficit right now. We'll talk about that on another day.
64.5 million for those of you who are playing the home version of our game.
Yep. But I want you guys to hear how goofy and weird the STAR program works. All right, you ready for this? So the STAR program exempts, if you have basic STAR, the first $30,000 from the true value of a home property. The enhanced STAR program, which is only for people above the age of 65, exempts annually a variable amount, which for 2015 to 2016 was $65,300 from your primary residence. So what you have here is, if you ever look at property tax, there's a rate that just gets basically applied to the value of your property. What STAR does is say, well, subtract, if you qualify for basic, subtract $30,000 from that value, then apply that equation. If you have enhanced, it's apply this variable, amount, subtract that, and then, plug it into the equation. So what does that mean? What if we just reduce the tax rate? It seems so much more simpler to me. Then people like renters who are probably also sending their kids to public schools would have the opportunity to also enjoy this lower tax rate. People will argue all the time that, oh no, the landlord's just going to pocket that themselves. That's a possibility. I mean, I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, but what I'm saying is right now the renters have no choice. They have no say in this. They are taxed to the fullest extent of this tax law with no opportunity, no way to get out of this other than purchasing a home, which maybe they can't. Maybe they've got credit issues. Maybe they've got, other barriers that prevent them from purchasing a home. So that's just what they're stuck with. The next group is poor people, which all of you are going to wonder, Andrew, how is it possible that this hurts poor people? Clearly, poor people make less than $500,000 a year. It's true, but also poor people usually aren't aware of tax credit programs like this. And usually poor people can't afford to own a home. So they typically end up renting, which puts them right back into that rent category. So, when you have a family who can barely afford to get by, they don't know about property tax exemptions and stuff unless they're fortunate enough that somebody near them, whether somebody in the school, a family member, or something like that, reaches out to them and lets them know. This isn't something that you typically find out until maybe you're closing on a property, and if you're lucky, the real estate agent or your attorney lets you know about this. So there are, I'm sure, plenty of people, and I've already spoken to a few who they would consider that, I don't know where the cutoff is, but they would consider themselves below middle class who had no idea about the STAR program. So they're effectively paying a higher tax rate than somebody who might make $450,000 a year, just because this program you have to register for, you have to apply for. It's goofy. And wrong. So we're going to wrap up the discussion in a little bit after this next break on Radio Free New York.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
This
relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. That Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
All right, we're back here on Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and we are talking about the New York State STAR program, which I think a lot of people, when they hear about it, they think, wow, this is great. You know, I'm getting some of my taxes back. And my philosophy is less taxes means less government, which is the type of government I want.
Just think about the mindset that this puts you in. It's like, oh, I'm getting a great gift from government. Mm-hmm. It's giving me, no, they're giving you back your money.
Yeah.
It was your money.
Yep.
Every dollar that you earn is yours, morally and equitably. And for government to swoop in and confiscate part of that is basically what it is this is legal theft.
Mm-hmm. Well, and not just that, when they finally do give you the money back, assuming you get back, they don't offer you interest, you know, comparative market gains, nothing like that. No, they hold your money. They're investing it however they feel is appropriate. And I use that term investing extremely loosely.
Wasting is a better.
Lighting it on fire.
Look at the Rochester City School District. $64.5 million is missing, and nobody can explain where it went. What? or you get this bland explanation like, well, we overspent. Well, duh.
Yeah, that part.
It's like going to the bank and because you're overdrawn and they're dinging you $38 a check. So you go there and they say, and you say to them, "What are you doing here?" And they say, "Well, you're overdrawn." Then you say, "No, I'm under deposited."
Yeah. Somebody owes me money. That's So yeah. So my approach is this: the STAR program was clearly put together to make people feel like they were getting something back from government. I bet you if we were to look at this, it was probably coming up on an election year or something like that. I should have done this research before bringing this up, but I bet you that's what it was. It was probably an upcoming election year, and this was a way for people to make sure that constituents feel good, government's giving back to them, all this stuff before the election. And really, all it does is it creates an unequal, unfair tax field where if you don't know about this program, you're automatically paying more taxes. If you're running a small business, you're automatically paying more taxes. If you make outside of an arbitrary number, you're paying more taxes. If you're younger or older than a certain age, your taxes are different. So it makes this unequitable or unequal playing field in terms of taxes where government is picking winners and picking losers. The state loves to do this. I mean, they do it not just with something like school taxes. They do this with various what they would call economic stimulus programs or different tax credits and rebates, abatements, incentives. These are all words that they use to basically hide the fact that what they're doing is giving somebody else an unfair tax advantage. Now, a lot of people are probably thinking to themselves, but Andrew, a lot of us get STAR. Like a lot of us qualify for STAR. How is that unfair? I want to keep getting my STAR money. Andrew, are you saying that we shouldn't get our STAR money? Absolutely not. What I'm saying is the STAR program needs to go away and the state needs to just reduce the taxes.
Right. That's the equitable and common sense thing to do. But they've got that needle in our vein now. Mm-hmm. It says you're hooked on government.
Yep. And I ran some just real basic numbers on this just to get an idea. I didn't have time to do a FOIL request. They take another 3 to 6 months to respond to it anyways, even though they're supposed to respond within 30 days. But we know that they've mailed and printed over 500,000 checks this year. So I don't know if government gets a special postage rate or not, but I did look and I just went to the post office and found the lowest letter rate that you could get with bulk postage. I figure pre-sorted 500,000 pieces of mail is going to qualify for the lowest rate. That's about 38 cents of postage per item, which means New York State more than likely spent about $190,000 of our taxpayer money just to mail out these rebates. Just to mail them.
Why don't they just credit your taxes for the following year or something?
They don't want to do that anymore.
And that is because
I don't know. Bad government. That's the best I can come up with. So if you registered, I think it was 2015 was the cutoff, they would just credit your taxes. But now, after that, they mail out checks. So you got to figure, okay, so that's $190,000 in postage. What's the printing cost? I just say, let's make it easy and just say it was only $10,000, which is way underestimated to make it an even $200,000. Then you got to figure, add in the cost of administration, at a government salary, it's not too hard to think that we're well over the cost of $500,000 just to do this mailing at this point. So what we've done with government, by having government involved, by not just doing one thing, which is just lowering the tax rate, we have spent more than $500,000 of taxpayer money to do what? Give back another $2 million that should have never been collected anyways. this is an issue. This is like, everybody should be outraged about this. But the reason people aren't is because they don't think about it that way. They don't realize that the STAR program, which seems like, oh, this should be making government smaller. This is government giving that money back to the people it took it from. No, this is just a bureaucratic system to avoid lowering taxes, actually making government smaller. It made government bigger. It made government bigger. It spent more of your money, but it made you feel like you were getting it back. And that's why the STAR program, I think it needs to go away. I think that we need to actually look at taxes and look at these programs. This isn't the only one. I mean, if you look at various abatement programs, different tax credit programs, incentive programs, you're going to find very similar things happening. This one is probably the least cynical one, I think, because this is kind of like the money is like going back to the people. A lot of the other ones are the money is going to one of Cuomo's buddies, or, you know, somebody's contractor friend, somebody's attorney. You see this with a campaign finance committee that was put together by the New York State Legislature. You know, everybody on that committee, they're all somebody's buddies, and everybody is benefiting from their buddies being on that committee. So I say all this to challenge each of you to look at these programs very critically and ask yourself, why would government create a program when they could just lower taxes? Why would government create a new bill or a new law or a new piece of legislation instead of just repealing the bad stuff on the books? What government is constantly doing is they're putting a Band-Aid on top of a problem that government created, and each Band-Aid that they put on is just another government Band-Aid. We got to get rid of the Band-Aids, get rid of the government problems, and it's going to be Way better for us.
Because each Band-Aid requires a Band-Aid.
Yeah, and it costs us money.
And then those Band-Aids that fix the first Band-Aid, they'll have to be Band-Aided as well. Mm-hmm. It just never ends.
No, it doesn't end. And that's I think where the issue is we need to get out of this mentality of, this is a problem, who should we look to fix it? Oh, I know, let's look to government. No, let's look to anywhere but government. We could definitely do this without government. And some people are probably wondering, like, okay, so what could the solution be if there was no government involved? Well, why don't we start with something much smaller, which is, let's just not have this top-down approach from Albany. Let's bring all of the budgeting and all the tax pieces to local governments and let the local communities vote on those taxes and vote on those things that are important to them. I guarantee you, if you do that, things would look so different. Imagine your community gets to vote on exactly what your school taxes are going to be that year, not just the budget. Some people can vote on their budget, but that's already basically been put in place how much taxes are going to come from that budget. I'm talking about, you sit there and go, this is the dollar amount that I think I want to pay for taxes this year. And you and the community vote on it. And every community will vote in a way that's important to them. Think of a senior community. Maybe they don't even have a school there, and they have like little to no young people. They might vote instead for better snow plowing and sidewalk salting so they don't slip and break something and end up in the hospital, And then other communities are going to vote based on what's important to them. Let's give control back to the people. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on Radio Free New York. We'll be back at it again tomorrow.